Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 729. Today we're going to take a look at The Crew Mission Deep Sea, and this is kind of a sequel or follow-up to The Crew, which came out about 2 years ago now, maybe just over a year and a half ago. And this is also a cooperative trick-taking game. The original was kind of an outer space theme. This is kind of an underwater sort of nautical theme. And it's 3 to 5 players, or 2 to 5 players I should say, with a variant. And you play cooperatively through various different missions. And so there's a mission book, and you can play through it kind of as a campaign if you want, very loosely, or you can just kind of pick and choose random missions and play through those, and those give you different objectives. Now there's a couple of sort of significant changes between this one and the original. So I'll go to the table, it'll be super quick, and I'll kind of show you some of the differences basically. If you want to watch my old review of the original Crew, you can go look at that as well. And then we'll come back here and I'll talk about some of those changes and how they kind of impact this game. So here's all the components to the Crew Mission Deep Sea. Really a lot like the original. You have your main sort of deck of cards. These will be dealt out to all the players. You've got the different suits. Nothing really different here. You have the little subs here. These are like your special trump cards, 1 through 4. Otherwise, the rest of these go 1 through 9 in the different colors. And so you'll deal these out, and you'll be going to try to accomplish a objective based on one of the missions in this logbook. Although the missions are not really driven by this logbook. Let's just open up to a random spot here. So let's say we wanted to do this mission here. This is the 5th mission in the book. And you get this target number there, that's 5. And so our mission 6 here has a 5, but all the tasks have to go to 1 crew member. And if we go all the way up here, you know, we were at mission 18, and then you've got to get a target number of 9. And sometimes there'll be other little effects and things, and these icons are explained in the rule book. But what you're gonna do is look at these cards here, and look at the number of players. So there's a variant for 2 players, but you do 3, 4, or 5 players. So let's say we're playing a 4-player game. We're going to flip these over until we meet or exceed our target number. So let's say our target number was 4. We'd only flip over 1 of these. And so then this would be one of the goals that one of the players has to achieve. But let's say we're doing 9, right? We're going a little bit further along. 4 players, so there's 4, and then there's 8. And so we haven't hit 9 yet, so we're going to do 1 more, and this will put us slightly over there. So now, similar to the original game, you're going to go around starting from whoever has the captain there, whoever has the 4 trump, and then start to choose these. Now there are rules where if there is more players than there are cards out here, then you can sort of pass. And so let's say we ended up with only 1 card, you know, then the start player here could pass. And there might be some other rules about who takes, you know, the cards and things, but all your goals and things are going to be driven by this deck of cards. And somewhat the difficulty is going to be based variably based on the number of players in the game. So this is kind of a nice way of sort of seeding this out to try to hit that target the most. So let's just look at this example. I did this completely randomly. So 1 player will end up with this. I will win all the cards in at least 1 of the 4 colors. So this player has to win all the blues or all the yellows or whatever. And then the next person might get, I will win the green 2 in the final trick of the game. So we know that this person should not be trying to win green tricks, right? This person will want to win the final 2. And then this one says, I will win as many tricks as the captain there. So this is going to be a tricky one to do. And so if you go through it and you win, then great. You could, you know, pick another mission or play through the campaign. You can go through the logbook in order if you wish. And the trick-taking rules are very similar to, you know, what you've seen in other games. Somebody will lead a certain color. Everybody else has to follow that color if they have that color. If not, they can play whatever they want. And then you have these special sort of trump cards here that will win no matter what. Usually whatever the highest number card of the lead color in the initial card is the winner. And then also if somebody leads with these trumps, you have to follow Trump as well. So there you go. So that's how it works. And then you just kind of collect tricks trying to meet all these criteria. If you fail these criteria, you can just stop mid-game and restart. So you could, if you want to say, you know, stick with these goals, or you can just deal out new ones and so on. And then it does have the same idea of sort of the communication. You can't communicate what's in your hand. Now you have this one here. We'll say you can put out a card here. This is a bad example. Let's put this one out. So one player could put that out, and they could do the same thing with like, hey, that's my highest yellow card, or that's my only yellow card, or that's my lowest yellow card. And that's all you can say about anything in your hand. And so there's some other little rules and things like that, but largely it's the same as the old Crew. It's just really a purely cooperative trick-taking game. But again, the main change here is kind of the randomized goals that are somewhat sort of scaled to player count and difficulty here. So actually, here's a good example here. So if you're playing with 3 players, this is not very difficult number-wise, but if you're playing with more, it's a 3. So let's see what this one is. It says, I will win none of the first 4 tricks. So whoever takes that, it's obviously going to be easier to accomplish that in a 3-player game than it is a 5-player game. Okay, so that is the Crew Mission Deep Sea. And if you've seen my review of the Crew, which I'll have linked below, my thoughts have really not changed. I really enjoy both systems and both games. Real quickly with my pillars of review, play count, I've only played this with 3. I've played the other Crew with I think every player count several times. And I haven't tried the variants here. And I played through about half of the missions in this particular logbook. So it's the same as the Crew. It just is the Crew. It's just basically, I think there's, like 30 missions in there, something like that, 32. And so it's basically just like new missions. So if you liked the old Crew, this is the new Crew with different missions, and the missions are randomly generated. Now that's both it's a mostly good thing, but it's mostly a good and a bad thing. And so if you came and asked me which of the Crews should I get, I would say it doesn't matter. Pick whatever one that you like the theme of. The theme doesn't matter, but just pick one and get one, or just get both. Now the thing that's good about the random missions is it scales for the player count. And that's great, because the old one, some of the missions were just way harder with 5 players, just because the way that the missions work, it's just that much harder with 5. And so they didn't really scale, and which is okay. Like, they're still doable, I think. I don't know that we really ran into any that were impossible with 5, but it's just certainly harder. So it's just like, oh, well, if we were doing the campaign and we would say, okay, you 2 sit over there, we're going to play it 3-player and then get through it easy. I don't know. It's not even that big of a deal, really. Now this one kind of fixes that, because the cards, like I showed you in the little walkthrough, are worth more points if you have more players, and so it should scale and you should have less cards out and less goals out. However, because it is random, we certainly ran into more than a few situations where you would deal the cards out and be like, okay, well, if we get dealt cards in a certain way, there's no way we win this scenario. And I think the folks that I was playing with, like the 3 of us, that we all played like tons of trick-taking games. So there's a certain level of intuition that you would get to. Whereas I think if you play this as a brand new sort of trick-taking type of player, you wouldn't necessarily know that in every case. Some of the cases it's going to be very obvious, and the rules even address this. They say just shuffle up the cards and re-deal them and stuff. But sometimes you don't really even know. Sometimes you'll know just by flopping the gold cards and be like, nope, that's not a doable thing, because if you have to take this one and I have to take this one and this one, then that's just going to be impossible. But sometimes you won't know until after the hands have been dealt. So you shuffle up the cards, dealt out the hands. Okay, this guy's the captain. Okay, so you're gonna have to take the first one. Okay, well, if you take that one and I take this one, okay, no, if I take this one, you take this one, then that's doable. And you're like, and you look at your hand, you're like, no, it's not, because there's no way that would, what I mean? So you get those situations, and that happens more than a couple of times. Like, it's not a lot. It's also not the end of the world, but it also is this weird sort of thing. So I guess now that I'm speaking out loud about it, I was thinking, oh, you could just get either one. I would say actually get the other one, because that one's a little bit more controlled, and you just kind of have the things. You don't have to deal with dealing out the deck and worrying about how balanced this is or whatever, or how feasible it is. So the other one, just know some of them are just harder with more players. And so that's just the way it is. And this takes steps to address that. It's really cool. And it's neat how they do it. And I really like how you have this sort of mission generator deck of cards. It's really cool. But I would say probably this one's maybe a little bit more advanced, because you have to kind of look at the deal of the gold card and figure out, I don't know, that looks so crazy. And so let's just reshuffle, which just doesn't feel very rewarding and stuff. Now, we talked a lot about that, but it's not a big deal for me at all. I think it's fine. I mean, we played it the other night, a couple weeks ago now, actually. We played Well, we played more than 10 times, but we played through 10 missions successfully. And obviously there was more than a couple failures in there and more than a couple like, reshuffles and stuff. But we spent the whole night just playing it, and it was fun, and we had a great time. We basically played it until our brains were no longer working at the end of the night. It was great. So it's not a big deal, but just kind of know that going in, and that could be sort of a frustrating point. You get to a certain point in the day or in the night when you're playing, you're like, God, we just keep getting these like impossible things. Now, I don't think that's just going to keep happening, because it would, I don't know, if I had to tell you in that one night, it probably happened, and this is sort of guessing. I remember there was one time where it happened like twice in a row, and that kind of really stuck out to us. And then it was probably like 4 other times, that it happened. And there were certain times where you would get it and you'd be like, okay, we can do this, but holy cow, that's going to be impossible. And so, yeah. So anyway, again, it's not a huge deal. If you've not played any of the original Crew, I would probably recommend that instead, but only just a little bit more, because I really do think this is a great game. It's just such an interesting take on the trick taking with the cooperative and everything. And I think I'm not sure, but I think people that haven't really done trick taking or aren't really into trick taking could like this. But again, I think I said this in the original review, I feel like this is kind of lends itself to more of an advanced trick taking person, because there's like certain things that you're going to intuit based on the hands of cards and the cards that people play, where I think in a cooperative setting that could be frustrating, especially if there's like an experience imbalance and stuff like that. I know I'm trying to caveat it because I want people to have the best experience possible. But again, I highly recommend both versions of the Crew. Like, there is a rewarding experience here. It's really satisfying when you beat a mission, especially as you start to go up in the complexity level. The first couple of missions are going to be pretty easy. But I just want to kind of color that up a little bit, because I know not everybody's going to love it as much as me and my friends, and a lot of people seem to do. And it's going to be a little bit of a gradual process probably for some people. So I just wanted to color that in, but at the end of the day, just so other folks and the designers don't get mad at me, this game's amazing. And it's really cool, and it's a fun cooperative game. And but again, just you kind of know those little touch points there, and I think you're gonna have a great time just kind of knowing that stuff going in, because it's really, I highly recommend both versions of the game. All right, that's the Crew Mission Deep Sea. Thanks.